Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth day of your SBL webinar. We have a small technical area to finish, so I will be taking you through it today, and then we will be moving to the past paper and exam techniques, and then we'll see how to answer. So there's going to be a lot of work, and I hope you have taken a printout of the past paper, that is September 2018 exam paper, and kept it along with you. And I also hope that you went through it thoroughly so that I can discuss without wasting much time reading. All right, managing a strategic change. So change is something that every organization encounters on a daily basis. Changes in different factors, be it employee, organizational processes and systems. So it is something that we have to live with. And when it comes to change, we cannot say no. We have to adapt and move forward. So if an organization does not embrace or adapt to changing environmental conditions, then it will be difficult for it to survive. It can even lead to demise, like how we looked at it on strategic drift. Meaning when the environment changes, organization also has to keep in line with the changing environmental conditions. Right, a key model when it comes to looking at types of change is based on speed of change, how fast it's happening, and the extent of change. So on the x-axis, we have transformation and realignment. Transformation is basically changing an organization's culture. So it's a fundamental change. So I hope you would take it down. So transformation is about changing an organization's culture. And a fundamental change occurs. So the key words are change in an organization's culture and a fundamental change. And you can't handle this change with the existing paradigm. So there is a massive shift. And that's what transformation is all about. And then we move on to realignment. And this is not a fundamental change. Your central assumptions and beliefs will remain same, but a slight modification. And on the y-axis, you have incremental when it comes to the speed. So incremental, we know it's a step-by-step approach, and also it will take a long period of time. But the end result is a big difference. So there is fundamentally a different organization once the incremental stages are completed. And the Big Bang, it is a forced reactive transformation using simultaneous initiatives on many fronts. And it happens fast, meaning in a short space of time. So when we look at the combination, if something is incremental and transformation, meaning a fundamental change happening over a period of time, a long period of time, then we call it evolution. A worm becomes a butterfly, doesn't happen overnight, it takes a bit of time. Similarly, theory of evolution, ape to man, so it's over a period of time, but a fundamental change. So in evolutionary change, an organization will try to change its culture, and it is quite challenging as well, because changing culture, it's not easy. And culture would include three elements: assumption, which is the larger part, values, and the beliefs. So to change assumptions, values, and beliefs will take a lot of hard work and time. Also, an evolutionary change when it comes to an organization should be planned. You should know what you want at the end of the 10th year and what you should do every year. It can't be an accident. Of course, you can have 20 to 30% unplanned activity coming in, but 70%, 60 to 70% should be planned. But then we have adaptation, that is incremental change, but a realignment. And this is normally the most common type of change. It is slow and gradual, and also it is based on the existing culture, process, and competencies. So most of the time organizations, what they do is they adapt to changing circumstances. They don't go to change the fundamentals. You are doing accounting manually, but thanks to technology now we have computers, etc. So you're still doing accounting, but in a technology based environment. So that is adaptation, and it cannot happen overnight. You need to assess the purchase requirements, do a cost benefit analysis, identify employees who can do tasks in a technology based environment, train them. So it's incremental and realignment, so adaptation. Then we have Big Bang realignment, which is known as reconstruction. It's a quicker change, which is normally brought about by sudden external pressures, maybe through a competitor innovating something, or changing the regulatory environment. Suddenly, the legal structure can change, which can impact your organization. So as a response, the business might launch or implement many initiatives at the same time, rather than approaching on a gradual basis. So that's what reconstruction is all about. And then we have a revolution, that is a fundamental change which happens quite fast. So we can say rapid and fundamental change within an organization. Also in a revolutionary change, a period of flux could exist, and the organization will face extreme external pressure for change. So that's the key thing, extreme pressure for change. And also culture has to shift pretty fast. And if that does not happen, the change initiative or the intervention will fail. Also, a lot of new initiatives will be launched simultaneously, so that the direction of the organization can be reversed. So this is the most difficult area to operate with. Whereas incremental evolution and adaptation is relatively easy, but then it takes a bit of time. Right, barriers to change. There can be many barriers, but these are some of the usual factors which are categorized under three key headings. One is job factors, fear of technological unemployment. I mean, we don't know what the new technology is, therefore you fear that company might get rid of you. A fear of changes to working conditions, too much work, etc., and fear of demotion or reduced pay. So job related factors. And then social factors, dislike need to break up current social environment. Sometimes you will have to be away. And personal dislike of people implementing change, you don't like the person who is carrying out the change. And lack of consultation leading to rejection of change. You don't get proper support or knowledge about what is going on, then therefore you don't like the change. And personal factors, implied criticism of current working method, and feel less valued, and work becomes more monotonous. So due to and there can be many factors apart from this, and due to those reasons, employees resist, or they don't like change. But you cannot say no to change. As company, as an organization, and as employees, we must learn to adapt to change. Right now, this is another model that can be used to carry out the change process. Lowen's three-stage change model. And according to Lowen, that successful change is achieved in three stages. So first one is unfreezing existing behavior. So what happens is, in this stage, you will talk to your employees and explain them the need for the change as to why the company should carry out this particular change. So you're trying to convince them, you're trying to break the barriers, you're telling them the benefits of change, how it is going to impact them positively. So this is what the whole unfreezing part is. So a lot of motivation has to go in so that they will not resist and they will not be stuck to the old ways of doing things. So whatever change that you are proposing, you tell them the benefits, then they will buy. If we try to do a change without telling them what's going on, then the fear sets in. But the moment you communicate in their tone, in their language, then they'll start taking it. And then the second stage is making the change. This is where the actual change occurs. And then the new methods are implemented. And it is important to note that at this stage you need hands-on leadership. Hands-on leadership and good communication are two key important factors that will calm down your employees. And also you have to identify the training gaps or knowledge gaps in employees and then provide them accordingly. So for example, your employees doing bookkeeping on manual ways, and then you bring in computers. And if he has never seen a computer, then you need to provide him a lot of training on basics of computers plus the accounting package and so on, so that his confidence will be increased. And also during that change phase, you have to know how to manage the existing accounting requirements. So while this guy is being trained, someone else have to do the accounting part. So there's parallel work going on. So all that we covered in the area of making the change. And the third stage is rephrasing the new behavior, meaning we have brought in change and now you need to make sure that your employees stick to the new ways and new methods of doing things. If not, they will go back to their old behavior. Right? Therefore, the new system should become part of the organizational culture. And people, the employees should feel natural. They should not go back to the old ways of doing things. So you need to bring in KPIs for the new system and also attach it to rewards as a motivational element. So the whole idea is they don't fall back on old habits and the culture. Also, some argue that rephrasing is unnecessary. Yes, rephrasing can become unnecessary in a highly dynamic environment. If you have to constantly keep on changing, because what happens is when you rephrase, then okay, they are in a new mindset, and again if another change intervention has to come in quickly, then again you have to unfreeze, make the change and refreeze. So in a dynamic environment, you keep on changing. So a step-by-step approach. So that's what Lewin's three-stage change process model is. Then we have different leadership styles that can facilitate change. First one is education and communication. Now here, the belief is that you communicate positively towards your employees and educate them, the end result, then they will accept it. That's the belief. You as a leader, to make sure that you sufficiently educate your employees and then you communicate positively. And then also another option is facilitation and support. This is where you try to counsel your employees so that they can overcome their fears and anxieties about the change. So you need to identify employees individually and then find out what their fear is and give them the right medicine. It can't be a generic solution to everyone. Third would be coercion. Sometimes we call it power, but I'll come to that at the end. Four is manipulation. Now here, we don't directly tell them what's going on. So we disseminate information in a selective manner. And there can be negatives, but we don't talk about the negatives, we only talk about the positives. So that's basically manipulation. And negotiation, it's the process of negotiating between two parties and a situation that will lead to compromise and agreement. But as a added point, I would like to tell you that when you are negotiating, you can take two stances. One is a negotiation based on power and a negotiation based on interest. A negotiation based on power is about I am the boss, you listen to me. Or my bargaining power is high, therefore you have to give me this. That's power-based negotiation. It is not long term, it will not work. If your transaction is one time, it's okay. But if you have to constantly engage with your stakeholder, customer, or supplier, then power-based negotiations will not work because the other party will feel intimidated. The interest-based negotiation looks at the objectives of each party. What does A want and what does B want? So long as you can satisfy the objective, both parties will be happy. So that's where you have a win-win situation. So especially in your professional life, you must always strive to achieve a win-win negotiation position. That is long term. Both parties are happy. So it's a good deal for both parties. Right. Then we have participation. This is where you aim to involve the employees, meaning you get their ideas in the change intervention, and you give them some autonomy to design their own jobs and pay structure, etc., within the limits, of course. So basically, get them to participate. You're not just telling them what to do, but they're also contributing. I mean, key objective is motivation. Right. Cohesion. What do you think that is? I would like to throw that to you. Cohesion. There is a question. Could you please give other examples of power-based negotiation? So basically, power-based negotiation happens when your bargaining power is high or when you have an authority. Okay, if you are the managing director and you go and tell the production manager, look, I'm the managing director, so you listen to me. I mean, you're not taking the opinion of the production manager, so he will be very demotivated. So I'm your boss, listen to me, that kind of an approach. Now you can even look at those in geopolitical context. Certain countries with certain powers, try to rule others. But the point is, it's not long lasting. It does not create a win-win situation. Right. So I would like to tell. I want you to tell me the meaning of cohesion. What does that mean? So this is normally taken as the last option. I mean, you have tried now. If you see, there are 6 leadership styles. You have tried the 5 and nothing works, but then this is your last option, cohesion. That is where you use your power. Right? So it's like a compulsory approach. So you tell your employees, look, either you be part of this change or you leave the company. So it's more bureaucratic and comes from more formal authority. And you will also try to make your position stronger by bringing in legislative support wherever possible, so that the employees have no other way but to listen to you. So as you understand, this is not a win-win situation. So like I said, it should be your last option if none of the others work. One question, out of these 6 styles, which is the most appropriate method of style for change? What is the best way to go about? What do you think is the most best option? Well, I can see some answers, but it actually depends on the situation. And normally, except coercion and manipulation, you can pretty much equally look at the other 4 options. But mostly it depends on the situation, the context. Is power negotiation like the autocratic leader? Yes, correct. That's an easy way of looking at it. Could you please explain refreezing? That's making sure that new ways of doing things are continued. You put in place, measures to make sure that new ways of doing things are continued. Evolution is over a period of time, and adaptation, you adapt to new things, which can happen quickly or slowly. Coercion is using power. That is a compulsory approach by management to implement change. That's what coercion is. All right, contextual features. Now, this is a model that is used to help managers design an approach towards change. So what it says is there are 8 factors that you need to look at when a change has to occur. I would like you to take down what these, what each of these factors mean. When we say time, it means that whether the organization has sufficient time to change or should they change now, meaning react quickly. If you say react, it's immediate. Whereas respond, you can take time and do what needs to be done. So in contextual features, in time, what we look at is how much time the company has or the organization has to carry out the change. Now or later. Scope means how much of the organization will be affected. Right? So is it a realignment or transformation? That's what scope is. Are we changing only the production and marketing, or are we changing the entire organization? Scope, area of impact or operation. Preservation, basically what to keep and what not to keep. What to keep and what not to keep. Meaning, which aspects of your working culture, competences, and people you should retain when you change, and which ones you should let go. So when you bring in the new accounting system, to accounting department, and if you had 10 employees doing manual work, now probably you will not need 6 of them. So you preserve 4, let the 6 go, of course with a satisfactory redundancy payment. So that's what preservation means. And diversity, it's about you understanding that different departments would have different subcultures. Now, see, when you carry out a change initiative, you can't have one recipe for everyone. It's very difficult. I mean, most of you who work in companies, the setup of an accounting function and the marketing function. The accounting department, if you walk in, it will be very quiet. People are busy. Everyone is glued onto their computers, thinking a lot. And then you walk into the marketing department, a lot of flamboyance, noise, chit chats going on. So different subcultures within the main organizational culture. So that's what diversity is all about. So when you carry out a change, you must understand that and go about accordingly. So it can't be one recipe. And you go to R&D department, again more serious work, research. So each department will have a different culture. Right, then capability. These are basically the resources that is available to invest in the change process that you are planning. Whether the company have sufficient resources. And when we say resources, there are 4 types: financial, physical, human, and intangible resources. Financial, physical, human, and intangible resources. So intangible resources are your information and trademarks and brand value, etc. So that's basically so resources are capacity. Capability is basically whether you have the ability to exist to cope with the change. Capability. Whether the company or the manager is capable of coping with the change. A small organization will not be able to take up certain changes that happens in the external environment. So that means they are not capable, while a large organization will be able to cope. So especially during economic decline or recession, large organizations will hold on, but small organizations will go out of business. Readiness, whether your staff are aware of the need for change and are they ready, whether they are committed. That's what readiness looks at. If your staff are ready for change, that's a very good sign, meaning a lot of other limitations or barriers can be overcome. Basically, willingness of your staff for change. And finally, power. How much authority and autonomy the change agents have to carry out the change. So change agents will have the power to do change within the organization. And if so, how much? A few questions. What is the difference between proactive and reactive? Reactive actions are you implement or carry out something once something has happened. Variance analysis is reactive. Proactive is more like forecast. You foresee before something happens and then you put certain measures in place. That is proactive. Can scope be realignment or transformational? Yes. And diversity is about subcultures. Okay, and four types of resources. One is financial resource. That is your financial, resources mean debt and equity, money that you have in your business, retained profits, retained earnings, etc. Then your physical resource, building, machineries, equipment, all that. Then human resource is your people, skills, competencies they have. And then finally, intangible resources, your information, and then your brand name, logo, all that. Those are your intangible resources. Right, the last model, known as the puppet model. Basically, this looks at certain factors that a company must look at to carry out change successfully. Basically, you look at these aspects if you want a successful change. And you look at these factors to manage change within any business system. So the puppet stands for people, organization, process, and information technology. So when it comes to people, it's about them having the right skills and motivation to carry out the task, the new change intervention. And organization is about being organized, job roles, lines of command, communication, organizational structure, which should support the strategy, and the whole formation of the business, which is organization. And then process, the systems, they must be well defined, efficient, documented, so that everyone have access to and understood by people who work. So that's what process is all about. And finally, IT, which links the whole organization and which drives performance, which helps to drive performance. And it will, replace manual tasks and then improve organizational efficiency. So what you must understand here is when you try to implement a change in one of the areas, others will also get affected. So it's all interlinked. So the success of a change will depend on all four of these factors. So coordination should happen among all four. So that would be the key word, coordination among all four. Yeah, so with regards to puppet model, IT and people. So people is about what kind of skills, competencies they should have when you carry out a change. And also the amount of motivation that you need to provide, the rewards, and their resistance level, and what you need to overcome their resistance. And IT is about the amount of support you need to provide, investment on IT, training, to what extent IT is impacting the change, and the changes in processes and staff development that will occur due to the changing IT, and to what extent IT should be exploited to derive business benefits. That's what we look under the IT category, information technology. Okay, there is a good question. That's can we analyze failure of change management through POPIT? Yes, you can look at the success or failure of change through these 4 aspects. You can even use the contextual features, the 8 factors. Right, so that brings us to the end of the technical content. I have provided you with this SBL revision notes, which is very useful. There is not a lot of content there. So since we are running short of time for the exam, it's a good material to revise. So I hope you would make a good use of it. Right, if you can open this question, processes and business structure. I would like to take you through it quickly. I would give you about 3 minutes to quickly have a read on it. All right, so let me read the question to you. The Business Architecture Committee has been asked to make recommendations on the sourcing of activities. That is, whether you must do it in-house or outsource. The BS has also been asked to identify technological implications or opportunities for the activities that they recommend should remain in-house. Suggest and justify recommendation to the BAC for each of the following major process areas. So one is attendance of repair staff at breakdowns, membership renewals, vehicle insurance services, membership queries, and vehicle history checks. And they have given you information with regards to each of these individually as well. And then the B part looks at analyze the advantages that 3C will gain from the decision to outsource the purchase and maintenance of their own vehicles. Basically, positives of outsourcing option. Right now, to answer the A part, which is about what the business should do with regards to these areas, whether they should do it in-house or outsourced. Now, it's a generic question, right, in terms of whether you have to do it by yourself or give it to someone else. So when a question is, for a similar type of question, you can use a model like this, which is, Harman's process strategy matrix. This is something that I already took you through. So let's look at it one by one. So the first item of attendance at breakdowns for repairs. Where would you place, or which quadrant will you choose? So in answering this question, you must say where the company should be placed and your reasoning. So you must say the level of strategic importance of that particular activity. If you say high, you must say give reasons. And similarly, complexity, how complex the activity is. If you say low, you must give the reason, and then accordingly, where would you put it? So I would like to throw the questions to you. So the first process of activity of attending at breakdowns. See, it's important that you understand the business when you have to answer questions like this. That's where the business awareness or the acumen becomes very important in SBL. I mean, only a person who has gone through a surgery will know how painful it is. So work experience is very important and very relevant when it comes to this examination. So if any of you are not working, it's important that you do a lot of reading about companies and how they operate, etc., and watch business programs and read business magazines to understand how these businesses operate. So strategic importance of this particular activity is high, right? And some breakdowns, they are very simple, and some are quite tricky. So strategic importance is high. And therefore you have to keep it in house. You can't let someone else handle it. And overall complexity is also high, because your employees need to be knowledgeable. Of course, the breakdown can be simple, but your employees should know what to do. Depending on how they diagnose, they will know whether it is an easy job or a difficult job. So knowledgeable workers, skilled employees are a need. And therefore, you must place it here, work on improving and keep it in-house. Also, you must harness your IT to seek improvements in the response time to breakdowns, so that your engineers can get to the point faster. Also, you must have systems in place so that your engineers can diagnose issues faster, and they can provide the right solutions. Technology will keep on developing. So whatever new things that comes into the market, maybe keep it on a internal database, so your employees can access and update their knowledge. All right, number two, membership renewal. What do you think about the strategic importance and the complexity? And accordingly, where can we place this? Membership renewal. Remember, in answering these questions, you must justify your answer. For example, if you say outsource, you must say why. And that why, that outsource should be supported by high and low complexity and importance, and with reasoning. membership renewal. So renewal of membership is important for your continued business. It's easy to retain your existing customers than going after new customers. So complexity is low, but the strategic importance is high. Like I said, revenue. And therefore, it works here. Automate this process. So how you would write is you automate the process. That is, for example, when a member's expiry date reaches, you send a automatic email telling him, okay, in a month's time or in 2 months' time, your membership will expire and it's time to renew. And you also incentivize if required. And in a month's time, you send another mail. And if the deadline is tomorrow, okay, you send a mail today. And if you don't get a response to all three of those mails, then you must check the system to see whether he actually got a mail, a reminder mail. Because sometimes there can be errors in automation as well. So you put a system in place, and of course you need to see whether it works properly. And they also can opt not to renew. If so, there is a way for them to communicate. So this particular process, falls into the automate category. Right, the third one would be vehicle insurance services. Where do you think we should place it? Complexity with vehicle insurance is normally high. It's technically complex, and it also carries large risks and regulatory requirements. And the other problem is these regulatory requirements will constantly change. So, which makes the complexity even more higher. But then the strategic importance is low to 3C. They are not in insurance business. Therefore, the best option for them is to outsource this service to a specialist. Who's good at doing insurance service. And if they are to do it by themselves, then it will be very expensive for them to manage that entire department, recruiting people. So give it to someone else, give it to the specialist to handle, and then you can focus on your core activities, which is of course an advantage of outsourcing. Next would be membership queries. How would you place it in terms of importance and complexity? So strategic importance when it comes to membership. Strategic importance of membership is high. I mean, it's your customers, you must have more and more membership coming in. So you must have frontliners or staff who are well conversant and who can handle these queries for new membership plus the renewals. Also, complexity is high because the type of questions they ask. You have different, customers. So therefore, the complexity is also high. So we would place it in the improve quadrant. So you have to invest in people and in systems. For speedy service and to respond quickly and accurately to multiple or wide range of questions that new members can ask. So it should be an in-house function, and the physical location of the call center or the people who handle membership queries can be in a place where it is economical for you to operate. So this is how you gain more marks, by writing more points. So it's in the improve quadrant. Next would be a vehicle history checks. What do you think of the strategic importance? Strategic importance. You can argue both ways, either high or as low. But see, it is important that you provide accurate data here. So the complexity can be high because the kind of damage through accidents, stolen vehicles, finance agreements, and these kind of factors can make it really complex when you do the vehicle history check. And how important, I mean, the importance of these factors is very high for the customer. So the best option for 3C is to outsource it. So, give it to someone who is already in this field for them to do it. So you will place it in the outsource quadrant. Yeah, someone asked why is it low strategic importance? Because it's not your core business. All right, moving on to the B part. That is, analyze the advantages that 3C will gain from the decision to outsource the purchase and maintenance of their own vehicles. So could you quickly give me the advantages of outsourcing the purchase and maintenance? Right, so the advantages that the business will derive from outsourcing their purchasing and maintenance of their own vehicle. So first of all, it is low in strategic importance and high in complexity. Low in importance and high in complexity, and that's the reason why we are outsourcing it. So you must identify the tangible and intangible benefits of this option. So first benefit is Economies of scale. So basically, auto direct, they purchase thousands of cars and vans for their customers. So therefore, bulk discount leading to, economies of scale, which they can pass to their customers. Then another benefit is predictable costs. See, the vehicle lease payment with auto direct are monthly, and also they include full maintenance of the car, including tires, etc. So 3C is in a position to predict these costs for budgeting purposes, because previously the costs have been variable and unpredictable. So now these costs will be predictable, and then it will help them in their budgeting. So your finance or numbers can be planned pretty much accurately. Another key advantage would be reduced overhead costs in garage and purchasing. Also, you can realize some income from the sale of the garage site. And the case says that the site is in a residential area with no room for expansion and severe parking congestion. So you can sell this particular area for residential development and realize some money, because someone else is doing this work for you now. So that's another huge advantage. Another advantage would be it will free up some cash for other investments from purchase to lease. See, when you go to buy on your own, you need considerable amount of money, and money that is tied up in fast depreciating assets. So if you switch to the option of leasing, it will release a lot of money for you to invest elsewhere in the company. Another advantage would be the moving away from the bottleneck, which is your central garage. At the moment, you drive or transport to this garage from all parts of the country, and you leave it there while they are serviced or repaired, and then you drive it back to the operational area. And if you look at Auto Direct, they have their repair and servicing centers throughout the country. So it will be possible for vehicles to be taken locally for services and repairs. So this will also reduce your downtime, and that's another key advantage. Another advantage would be concentration on core business. See, the management of garage is not a core requirement or a core strategic requirement here. So senior management time will be wasted. So if you outsource, it frees up time so that they can focus on core business activity that will be directly relevant to customer and the business as a whole. Also, another advantage would be that see you have the ability to derive or get expertise from your outsourced party. See, vehicles they become increasingly subject to legislation designed to reduce carbon emissions. Also, the technical complexity of vehicles increase. So this would make it more difficult for the company to maintain without specialist monitoring and repair equipments and knowledge. So if 3C is to do it by themselves, then they need a lot of investment in this area. So the best option for them is to outsource to a specialist. And therefore now AutoDirect will have to monitor legislation and also advise on the implications and implement the requirement for its larger customer base. So in simple terms, you are passing the headache to someone else and then you focus on your core business. Right, so I would like to mention something important here. If you look at this question, let me take the B part just to explain this point. Analyze the advantages. So it's 10 marks. A common question in your head is, how much do we write for this? How much do I write for a 10-mark question? How do you decide that? I would like to throw that question to you. How do you decide how much to write? You know the amount of marks that are given. So in a simple question like this, advantages of outsourcing, 10 marks. How do you decide? It is very important that you understand this for various reasons: time management, gaining of marks, sufficient explanations. Someone says 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages. No, that is out because it question only asks about the advantages. So how would you go about? You must be really clear with regards to this particular element. For a 10-mark question, how much do we write? Would 5 points be sufficient? Or should we write 10 points? And your paragraphs, each paragraph, how many lines? These are confusions that you have. Okay, a lot of you say 5 advantages or 5 points, 5 advantages with explanation. How much of explanation? Right, listen carefully. This is a simple question, right? There are various types of questions. Now, after the break, I will start doing the mock paper, September 18 paper, then I'll explain it to you, different forms. But for now, understand, here to get the 10 marks, you can write 10 points. That is one way to approach it. So like how I discussed before, benefits of economies of scale. So you explain it in about 2 lines, then you get a mark. Predictable cost. Right now, 3C can predict what the costs will be in future. Therefore, they can plan it out. Overheads will be reduced because no need for garage and etc. Higher vehicle availability because the garage is a bottleneck. Now you are avoiding it. Therefore, high vehicle availability. Freeing up cash for other investments or other use. So now what we are doing here is, one by one we are going on, point by point. So that is one way. 10 marks meaning 10 points. Each point you can explain it in about 2 or 3 lines depending on the type of point. If not, there is another approach. That is where you mention the point, you explain the point, and then you support it with further explanation. We call it the development mark. For example, take the point of purchasing benefits from economies of scale. That is, this auto direct purchase thousands of cars and vans for their customers each year. So therefore they can negotiate substantial discounts from manufacturers, and this can be passed to their customers, meaning to 3C. So when they buy large quantity, they have what? Economies of scale. That is one point. The whole of this is one point. So that benefit comes to you. Your cost will reduce. Economies of scale. How do we develop? So that is one point, you get 1 mark. Now how do I develop to get another mark? Anyone who wants to give it a try? How do you develop the point of economies of scale? Okay, that we gain by saying when auto direct buys a large quantity, cost per unit reduces, so that benefit comes to us. So our cost will reduce. How can I develop further to get another mark? So this is what writing 5 points and developing it to another 5 points to get the other 5 marks. So 5 points will give you 5 marks. 5 development points will give you another 5 marks. How do you do that? To the point of economies of scale. How can I develop further? Or how can you develop further? Very good. One answer, it would also make us cost leaders in the industry. Yes. So if you are pursuing a cost leadership strategy, and this particular option of outsourcing will help you in your value chain to reduce cost further. So then you can pursue that cost leadership. So that's a development. So another way to argue is when your cost is reduced, your profits will increase, meaning towards shareholder wealth, or your ROI will increase. Your denominator remains constant and your numerator increases, profits. So this is how you develop. Right, there is another good observation with regard to answering 10 points. Can this be done by when they say analyze? When they say analyze, they require explanation, isn't it? Yes. Analysis means looking at from a 360 angle. So for example, coming back to this economies of scale point, How is economies of scale? Because Auto Direct purchase thousands of cars, I mean a lot of cars and vans for their customers each year. And when they buy a lot, they are able to negotiate a bulk discount, a substantial discount. And when they get discount, they can pass to their customers. So this is what we are looking at it from many different angles. So all this is but one point. That's what analysis is all about. You don't just say, okay, outsourcing will give me economies of scale. No. How? In what angle? So that's where the analysis comes in. But that's a good observation. So even analysis, needs explanation from many different angles. Another good point, also when costs are reduced due to efficiency can help to create barriers to entry for the others to come in. Yes, agreed. So remember, depending on the marks, it's about number of points. A 10-mark question, you can write 10 points, or you can write 5 points and write further 5 development points, which will give you the other 5 marks. So if the question is easy, you should focus on writing more points. So if the question asks, I mean, if there are 10 marks, you try to write about 12 points. But keep a tab on the time, that you don't exceed the time. So even if few points are here and there, you have more points to cover and give you marks. All right, now let's take a break. But then in this break time, I would like you to be very thorough with the September 18 scenario. Hope you have already read through the exhibits. If not, I would like you to quickly have a read on it, and then I will see you exactly in 15 minutes. All right, welcome back. There are two questions that I would like to quickly answer. One is, can we state it in bullet points or paras? No, no bullet points. You have to state it in paragraphs. The only time you will write bullet points is when the question asks you to provide the answers in slide format. I will show you how to do that. Other than that, everything should be in paragraphs. Also, please clarify whether we have to explain when writing 10 points. Yes, you need to clarify. Whether we have to explain. Yes, you need to explain. For example, the previous points of economies of scale advantage, how you would write it is, you can say, for example, Auto Direct purchase thousands of cars and vans for their customers each year. They should be able to negotiate substantial discounts from manufacturers or sellers as they buy in bulk. So some of these discounts can be passed on to their customers, such as 3C. And these discounts that is being passed on would go on to reduce the input cost of 3C. So that whole thing is 1 point. So that's how you explain. And the same point can be further developed to gain another mark. And how would we do that? We could say the reduced input cost will go on to reduce the overall cost of 3C, and this will help in improving profits, the bottom line, hence helping to achieve the objective of maximizing shareholder value. And this would also make the company more competitive in the marketplace. That is one way of developing. If not, you can say reduced input cost will reduce cost of production, or your unit cost will be lower. In value chain, you can look at it as inbound logistics plus procurement. So when your input cost can be reduced, and if your strategy is cost leadership, then this will help you to pursue a cost leadership strategy. But that point you will write if there is any mention of cost leadership strategy in the scenario. So don't go outside the scope. You must stay within the scope. So your development points should be within the scope. Don't go outside. Right, now let's move to the important part. That is September 2018 paper, I will tell you how to approach the whole examination. So please make your own notes, so that later also you can have a read. I mean, as you listen, you can't grasp everything, so make sure that you take down your own notes. All right, so the usuals, 4 hours including reading, planning, and reflective time. 4 hours meaning 240 minutes. Of this 240 minutes, the recommended reading time is 40 minutes. So that's the first thing you must note down. Meaning, from these 240 minutes, you can spend a maximum of 40 minutes to read. You can't be reading again and again a particular paragraph to understand and then write the answer, because then you are wasting time. Keep the 200 minutes to write answers and 40 minutes to read. So like I said on the first day, reading and understanding is a skill. You cannot learn it overnight. So it needs a lot of practice. So try it out with a lot of questions and a lot of case scenarios. So 40 minutes reading and understanding time. And this question paper is an integrated case study with one section containing a total of 100 marks, and all tasks must be completed. So there are multiple tasks with different amount of marks. And all tasks contain professional skills marks, which are included in the marks shown above. Meaning, of these 100 marks, 80 is for technical content, 20 is for professional skills. And there are 5 professional skills. Right, so every case study, I mean SBL case study will have an introduction page. This will tell you what the company is and few basic information, and it will also give you information on exhibits. Now if you look at this case study, there are 6 exhibits. You can look at it as an appendix or an attachment, whatever. So a bit of information about a company and 6 attachments. So there is a question that says most of the videos say to write a plan in your answer booklet. Should we do it? Yes, you must do it, and I will tell you how to do it. They say failing to plan is planning to fail. So you must have a plan before you attack the answer. Right, so we must, in the 40 minutes, first 40 minutes, firstly quickly read the requirements. See, it says the case requirements are as follows, and you will be told which role you are taking in each task. Right, so sometimes there's a different task, the different role in each task, but in most cases, you will be given a single role throughout the entire paper, meaning, for all tasks. Right, so we have one task here, and that has 2 subsections, that is 1A and B, totaling 32 marks. So for your first task, you can see there are 6 professional skills marks and 18 plus 8, 26 technical marks for technical skills. So 26 plus 6, 32. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 4 tasks totaling 100 marks. So each task will have a small paragraph giving you some further information, and then moving on to the requirement. So the first thing you would do is have a quick read on the requirements. So you read the requirements or the tasks, and then you read the exhibits. So we have the exhibit 1, extract from the most recent annual report of CC. Extract meaning part of it from the company's annual report. So we have chief executive statement. So you can get a feel of the company, when based on what the CEO says. I'm not going to read any of this. I hope you have already done it, but I will be discussing as we discuss the task for with regards to each of the tasks. Also extracts from a risk report section of the annual report. Then we have specific risks and what they have done about it. Press release. See, information is given to you in different forms. Some apart from the annual report, you have a press release of the announcement of the new road in B. And then we have forecast revenues and costs for the construction of the new road project, cost and revenue. So financial data is given. And outline contents of the PID, project initiation document, and a summary of the operational issues section of the PID. So some information there. And number 5, exhibit 5, transcript of an emergency meeting at the company's head office following protest against construction of the new road. Conversation between people. And the 6th exhibit, a report of an interview with BV in O Daily News newspaper. So that interview is about big data. Right, so once you read the tasks or the requirements and then the exhibits, then you can start answering. So in that, if you are to answer the first requirement, so the first thing you do is you identify which exhibit this particular requirement or task relates to. All right, now see, analyzes. Okay, prepare the task 1 required, prepare a briefing paper for the board meeting. So can someone tell me what the format of this briefing paper is? So under handouts, you see SBL effective communication. That document contains all the different formats in which you are supposed to answer. See page number 5, briefing notes, briefing papers and working notes. I will just take you through one, others you must read and understand on your own. See, briefing notes or briefing papers are working notes and working notes. As the name indicates, these are intended to be short and to the point. These are intended to be short and to the point. But have no real formal structure, as they are intended as advisory documents for other people such as senior managers or board directors to help them communicate more formally both verbally or in writing to a selected audience. Therefore, there is no recognized formal structure, but students must understand that these differ from reports in that they do not require opinions, conclusions, recommendations, etc. Instead, they should be merely informative and factual in order for the recipient to form an objective opinion of the facts presented. So it is very important that you understand what these different formats are. So you read it, allocate some time and read and understand what these different formats are all about. So going back, read and understand how to write letters, emails and memos, reports, presentations, slides and notes. So go through in detail. So this is a very useful document. So I hope you will make good use of it. All right. Going back. So this is the first thing you will underline when you read the task. Prepare a briefing paper. So there's no formal structure. So, but you will have headings and then write answer. So the requirement is analyzes the financial and non-financial issues which will affect the final decision of whether to accept the contract to build the road in B. Note, a recommendation is not required, so don't go to do that. In examination, it's very important to follow instructions. Don't do things that the examiner tell you not to do. Professional skills marks are available for demonstrating analysis skills in identifying information which is relevant to the decision. So you will underline the briefing paper, you will underline analysis skills, analysis, that's the verb, financial and non-financial issues. So 18 marks. We need to talk about two things. So you can break it between financial and non-financial. Nine points for financial and 9 points for non-financial. And our container is analysis, meaning we are going to have a 360 view. Look at it from many different angles. So financial and non-financial factors factors that will affect the final decision, but then don't go to write a recommendation whether to take it up or not. No, that's not our job here. We are just going to analyze financial and non-financial factors. Now this question 1A gives you 22 marks. Can you tell me how many minutes will you spend on this? The number of minutes you are going to spend on this question, you must write it here next to the question. I hope you can see my mouse pointer. Tell me how many minutes will you spend on this particular question, that is 1A. How many minutes? Someone says 1.8 minutes per mark. That is if you are doing a 3-hour paper. That is 180 minutes divided by 100 marks. See, that's why SBL becomes very easy here, because you have a lot of time. Listen carefully. We have 4 hours, that means 240 minutes. From 240 minutes, I told you to take 40 minutes for reading. So that leaves you with 200 minutes for writing, and of course planning as well. So 200 minutes to get answer this question. 200 minutes to get 100 marks or 80 marks. $200 to get 100 marks or 80 marks. So 200 minutes to get 80 marks, because the balance 20 marks is the container, like I told you. It's the way you write it. You're not writing additional content there for that 20 marks. It's the way you write your answer, for which you get 20 marks. So SBL, actually you have a lot of time, provided you are prepared in your skill of planning and writing a little faster. So we have 200 minutes divided by 80, you get 2.5. So for a 22 mark question into 22, so you can spend about 55 minutes. So the time that is allowed, you can write it here so that you can keep a tab. So if you start at say 10 o'clock, so from that time and the time that you have written is allowed for you to answer this particular part. So you should do that for all the tasks. All right, so in answering this question, we must have a plan. So how do we structure that? Analyzes the financial and non-financial issues which will affect the final decision of whether to accept the contract to build the road in B. So we underline the words briefing paper, the key part of the question, financial and non-financial issues, and the skill that is required, analysis. Next thing you need to do is attach the exhibit that is relevant for this particular task. You should know now for some questions all exhibits will be relevant, something like pestle analysis or SWOT analysis or five forces. Then it is difficult to attach a particular exhibit to the task or the requirement. But in most cases you can directly derive the information required for the task from a particular exhibit. So then we can come and write that here, so that that you should do once you have read the requirement and when you are reading the exhibits, because then you will know, okay, I read this requirement and this is the exhibit that is relating here, so you come and quickly write it here. That's what I told you at the beginning. As you read, you should understand where it relates. So the first thing you do is read the requirement and then you start reading the exhibits. So when you have read the exhibit, when you have read the requirement and when you are reading the exhibits, you should know which exhibit relates to which task. Right, so now tell me for this 1A, which exhibit or exhibits you will use to answer. There is a question, isn't it 2.5 minutes per mark? Yes, correct. It is 2.5 minutes per mark, which means it is 45 minutes for 18 marks. Yes, correct. Since we allocate time only for technical marks and not professional marks. Yes, you are right. So an 18 mark question should be answered within 45 minutes. Correct. You are right. this particular requirement, key exhibits are, I would say, 2 and 3, but there is few information that you can get from exhibit 1. CEO's concern about being economic friendly, trying to make more money, and investments on systems, and how a system can support a large project, and so on. So that's what I said. Some exhibit, I mean, some requirements, it's difficult for you to attach it to only a particular appendix or exhibit. So be mindful of that fact. Generic questions will have answers, or will have information for your answer for on the entire case. But sometimes there can be specific requirements which will directly relate to a particular exhibit. Right, so now it's about having a plan for your answer. Don't spend a lot of time in planning, because you need to save time to write. So your plan should be a sketch, in very short form. So for example, plan for 1A, you would say financial, you say, financial aspects. Don't try to write in full words. Why we put up in short is so that you will remember later as to what you should write. So financial aspects, then leave some room, and then we'll say non-financial aspects. So financial aspects, what you will write about. For example, if you look at this project, this road construction project, on exhibit 3, it shows progress payments from B's government is 21 billion. Figures are in million, therefore it's 21 billion. And the project cost is 19 billion. So you have a profit of 2 billion. Whether this is in line with your current ROI. Now that is a financial aspects. Right, so you can write a point on profitability. So this is how we plan. Then, in the scenario, they talk a lot about protecting the environment. Now that becomes under non-financial. Protecting environment. Also, if you read the exhibit 2, that is where most of your information is, right? They're trying to reduce journey time by half, almost half. So that is again a non-financial element. So their journey time half. So later when you come back to write, you have some indication as to what you're going to write. Then they say low price will be an important criterion when choosing the contractor. So that's a financial element that we need to be careful of, low price. So if they are expecting a low price, can we bid at that price to make sufficient return for our shareholder? So similarly, what the point that I'm trying to make is you write down in short what you will write later. So this is how you plan financial aspects, non-financial aspects. So can you quickly tell me for this question, can you give me 5 each, 5 financial aspects and 5 non-financial aspects? First, let's go with the financial aspects. You must always try to stay within the case scenario, meaning within the scope. Don't try to go out, meaning don't assume and bring in points. Those are allowed provided you are within the scope. Assumptions within the scope are allowed, not outside. And one thing that I would like to highlight is on the first page, in the introduction, see, construction is a listed construction company. Now, as you read, certain things should come into your head. Something like when you read it as a listed construction company, you should know the implications of a listed company. Okay, there are external shareholders, there is majority shareholders, minority shareholders. The company will have a PE ratio. Company will have an overall, industry PE and company PE. There is share price movements, right? There is dividends. So all aspects related to a listed company should automatically come to your head, because later you will need it. If the company is not listed, okay, a lot of things are not needed. So a listed company, board composition, how should that be? Right? Okay, you are not going to take all these down, but as you read, it should, come into your head. See, the board of CC comprises 50% executive and 50% independent non-executive. So that's perfectly all right. So board composition is good. If the balance is different, and if there are any questions related to that in CG or the leadership, then you know how to tackle that. So that is why the knowledge of technical content is also important. All right, now can you tell me 5 financial points? Right, so key financial issues will be the profit margin. So forecast profit is 2 billion with a revenue of 21 billion. So you can achieve a margin of 9.5%. And currently your target is 8%. So based only on number, this project is above your expectation. Another, financial point would be the working capital requirement. For this particular company, they haven't carried out such a large project in the past. So forecasting will be difficult, and then the amount of working capital required will be quite high. Then the liquidity of the project and the sufficiency of short-term bank facilities. See, if the time duration is not according to the plan, then the funding needs will also differ. Then whether company has sufficient sources to support the continuity will become a question. And another issue is what if the progress payments get delayed? Normally, any government contracts, there can be delays. So if that happens, it will put a lot of stress on CC's cash flow requirement. Can minimum return required by shareholder be a financial indicator? Yes, of course. It is a financial indicator. Also, your debt requirements. See, if the company breaches the covenants laid down by current lenders, then they will not be able to go for more loans, because that's another source of finance. So if the current setup, they will be looking to refinance some current debt. And if they have already huge commitments, then refinancing will become tough, meaning problematic. And for shareholders, this will provide a good opportunity to enhance long-term value, because they can look at follow-on projects like maintenance work, etc. And project Alphia or A was, it was a loss. So there is, a bit of doubt whether company can, achieve the targets set in this project. Basically, come up with reliable forecast and achieve that. Especially because this project is over mountainous terrain, and CC does not have experience in handling such territories. See, your sensitivity is quite high. Currently your margin is 9.5% and your expected is 8%. So only 1.5% different, which is 320 million. Yeah, there is a good question. It is, do we just explain these indicators and why they are important, even though we have no figures to calculate with? Yes, correct. See, all financial aspects sometimes will not have numbers for you to further explain. So even without numbers, we can talk about it. For example, I said it is good for shareholders in the long term because they will get more business in terms of maintenance, etc. So we don't have data to support that claim, but that claim can be made provided this project goes well and the payment from that particular government comes in. And if both parties are happy and the chance of that government giving more business to this company is high, and provided they are profitable, then shareholder value will increase. Right, moving on to non-financials. If you can quickly give me 5 points to write under non-financials. Non-financials can be quantitative as well as qualitative factors, but it can't be monetary related. That's what it means. What would be non-financial factors that we must analyze with regards to this particular project? Right, so one factor is they are going to get involved in a new country and they're going to deal with new suppliers, labor, basically new stakeholders. So whether they can put up with the cultural differences. So that is a non-financial factor. Another non-financial factor is the expertise in handling a different environment. Previously, they have done projects in flat countries. while the new project is in the mountainous terrain. So whether they can handle such an environment is a question. Another non-financial factor would be central management resources, whether they have sufficient resources to, oversee the project effectively. Now, if you look at the audit committee, they are currently, they have responsibilities, and if you bring them here, then they'll be stretched too far. So workload, then whether they can do an effective job is a question. Another non-financial factor would be the system support. Currently, they lack an operational system to support a project of this size and location. So it is double of what they did previously, right? 10 billion to 21 billion. And their site smart development is planned for the next 2 years. So there will be disruption while this is happening. So one thing is either they should have delayed this project till they develop the system, or they have to look at the possibility of buying a system to support this project. So then it is a cost factor, and then you can talk about it under financial aspect. If so, how much can they be spending on such a system? And also look at cost benefit analysis. Right, there is a question. Cultural issues and experiencing and handling mountainous terrain. So by explaining that part with regard to the new supplies and labor and not doing mountain projects, do we get 1 mark for both points or more needed to get the mark? Talk about cultural issues separately. Cultural issue is about people from 2 different countries. So that will get you 1 mark. No experience in handling mountainous terrain is another point altogether. Talk about it separately, then you get another mark. It's very important that you write 1 point in 1 paragraph. Don't go and talk about 2 points in 1 paragraph. And between each paragraph, leave at least 2 lines. So then the marker can easily identify. If you go and write everything into 1 paragraph, it is difficult to read, plus you're not separating points. 1 point in 1 paragraph, and between 2 paragraphs leave at least 2 lines. So moving on, other non-financials would be bringing in more suppliers to make sure that there is no hindrance or delays for the supply, and you will need to recruit manpower, and that will take more time. Also, you are working on a very tight schedule, meaning you will have to bring more labor or skilled labor, meaning cost of project will increase. Then if whether you can achieve the target return. Also, they may be over optimistic. See, in some areas, it's not possible for you to construct new stretches of road. That will give them shorter journey times than the current road network. So that particular country's president, rather Minister of Transport. So they are trying to reduce that time by almost half. So whether this is actually achievable is a question, especially when this particular company does not have experience in handling such a project. They will not know unless and until they do it. And that is a key project deliverable, right? Trying to reduce the time by almost half. Right, moving on to the second part. Discuss the difficulties CC may face in fulfilling the criteria stated by DO, the Transport Minister of B. So what are the issues that CC may face, or the problems they may face in fulfilling the criteria stated by DO, the Transport Minister of B? Professional skills marks are available for demonstrating business awareness, commercial acumen. So for this requirement, most of the difficulties can be identified through the exhibit 2, because that is where the minister mentions what they would like to have. So since it's an 8-mark question, you can write 4 points and develop it to another 4. Can you quickly give me 4 points? Right now, see, from the press release, the top line says a 20 billion new road scheme between G and L will transform the economy of B region, cutting the average journey time through the I mountains by almost half. So that's the first thing. Project objective. Project objective. CC does not have previous expertise in handling such a project. Whether they will be firstly able to meet this objective in such environmental condition, mountainous terrain. So project expertise, previous prior experience is an issue for CC, because if they don't meet that, some part of revenue also will not come in, future projects will also be lost, and this particular project will put a lot of strain on their existing work as well. So that's how you develop. There is an answer, so I would like to read this question to explain a point. See, discusses the difficulties CC may face in fulfilling the criteria stated by DO. So that's your scope. You must work within this scope. I have an answer here that says flooding might be a problem during the construction, which could cause a delay in the work. It's a little away from the scope, so don't go out. So you must stay within this criteria. So that's what I started with, the objective of the project. Objective of the project is to reduce journey time by almost half. And CC does not have expertise in handling such environment. So can you meet this objective? So that's your first issue, difficulty. Hope you understood that point. That's very important. Stay within the scope. Right, then 1, 2, 3. Fourth paragraph. It says low price will be an important criterion when choosing the contractor. So if you are to set a low price, then your cost needs to be low. Meaning your margins will be low. Then the next question is whether you can achieve your target 8%. Because any cost increase can eat your margin, and therefore CC's objectives will not be met. Right? Because the customer is looking for a low price. So that is another difficulty CC would face in fulfilling the criteria. Then they say we shall also want the contractor to carry out the work efficiently. Underline the word efficiently. Efficiency is a subjective term. See, it's about output, input-output ratio, productivity. Then you have to have KPIs to measure efficiency. Efficiency from CC's point of view and efficiency from Desmond's point of view. How do you reconcile? So there can be conflicts there. And they are also talking about timetable being as short as possible. So if you want the timetable to be short as possible, you must bring in more resources. And that's going to increase your cost. Again, going back, whether we can meet our financial targets. So business acumen, you bring in business knowledge. If you want to reduce time, you have to bring in more resources, meaning you have to spend more money. Meaning we need to jeopardize cost control. Also, while you work on this project, you are causing a lot of disruption to nearby areas. Also disruption to natural habitats. And he noted that in his statement. We shall expect our chosen contractor to limit its environmental footprint. So whether CC can minimize that. That can be a separate point. Then he also says the government will guarantee any debt finance that the contractor needs to fund the project. At what cost? And whether any covenants will be needed. And if part of the work is not satisfactory, whether they will keep up to the promise. And if they don't, how will that impact the continuity of the project? Because 19 billion they need to fund, and if the part payments in those stages don't come in, that will become a huge issue for CC. Also, in the construction there are many other aspects, like supporting features such as drainage and bridges, etc. Now they will look at how well these are also constructed. So that is where this whole efficiency and scope document, all that comes into play. And how will DO look at these, and whether CC can satisfactorily meet those requirements. Right, so the key point is, more than the answer, I would like you to understand how to structure and derive the method in which you answer. So if you look at this exhibit, most of the points for your answer can be derived from the exhibit itself. You should not underwrite or overwrite. and 8 marks, you must limit it to the time that is allowed for that. So any minute that you take more from here will eat time from the other side. All right, so I'll wrap it up from here, and tomorrow we will continue with the balance of the tasks, and a few more techniques that I must mention. I will take it on tomorrow. So have a good night. See you. Thank you very much.